HA, yeah, we go and present every year. ACS, yeah, I go and present. But
So, when you want to go into research, do you like keep yourself in timeline like when I should finish this, or do you like just go with the flow?
so you can't, I mean, you can and you can't. If you say, I'll just get this done whenever, it likely never gets done. And so, but that's depends on kind of the individual and how you function. She was talking about how you write the title and the introduction or the abstract and the introduction and all this stuff. And I went, the title is the last thing you write. Hands down, the very last thing you write. Because guess what? The title is the thing that's going to bring whoever to read your paper. So you have to have gotten to the end of your research to figure out what the heck that title is going to be. What my PIs told me a long time ago was you have to schedule time to write. And you just schedule the time to write or to work on the project. And you have to schedule that time to set aside time for yourself to just write about it, to process it, to pull it together. And if you don't do that, you will never get it done. But having a deadline for me always was a great way of making sure it got done. If it's nebulous, it stays nebulous. So that's a good question. It depends. So they have to go to IRB, and our IRB is done through NOVA. I was really annoyed they won't do it for faculty. No question. The IRB for them is the longest part of the process because they'll send it back to you and ask for revisions and all of that kind of stuff. So because they have 3 years, they have to get it presented in those 3 years. We ask them to start thinking about it in their intern year, typically their second year, end of their intern year, early second year, they're hopefully submitting to IRB and getting that process started. One of the things these guys didn't talk to you about is if you're going to do human research, you have to do city training. And if you're going to do animal research, you've got to do your IACUC training. So there's some different certifications you have to get before you can even submit. So the IRB, depending on what your IRB system is and how many revisions you get, can take a while. And then they typically, actually a bunch of them just presented last week. Yeah. So a bunch of our third years presented last week. So for them, you're looking at maybe a year-ish. Yeah. And like I say, for the boards, they're expecting we do it every 3 years. Typically I like to use about 6 months worth of data. Just so I've got something to show for it. So it just kind of depends.
I think it's fine. We're still about the connection between these.
Yeah.
When you're applying,
yep,
a candidate has applied.
Yep.
Are you mostly looking for the PDs, right? Are they mostly looking for research that have been already published, or does that count if you're in the middle of research?
So good question. And it kind of depends. I will tell you, I've got experience in 2 different worlds. So in the surgery world, they want you to have first authored and presented. So presentations count too, not just publications. And they want essentially finished project. On the family medicine side, I will tell you that because our stuff, the things that we're looking for are less bench and more clinical, it truthfully doesn't matter one way or another, though it is more important to us that your brain knows how to think through that cycle than you necessarily completed it, but ideally it's completed.
You're saying that now the brains they're required to do it during the.
Yep.
If someone comes in or
that's a good question. I don't know what the ACGME would do with that. I don't know whether I mean, you're going to have to do other quality projects with your class, separate from your research project? I don't know. That's a good question as to whether that counts or not. That's fair. Are you all feeling a little bit more like this is attainable? Yeah. Okay.
I was wondering about gathering
Yeah.
articles or like you were saying, Nicole, like the 5 to 10 most up to date things, but would it also be wise to look at the articles or studies that have the most sites, like if they're cited a lot, like are those
Sure.
generally the
So, and even the publications are ranked by their impact.
okay.
And so when you go to publish, picking who you get your paper published by actually matters. So just like I said, I would go to the American College of Surgeons and present, but I wouldn't go to this stupid European nothing. Or I would go to AHA if I'm presenting on PAD, but I wouldn't go to the little Japanese. So yes, you could certainly look at the things that are cited more often. Probably those are from higher impact journals. Yeah, that's absolutely valid.
This is kind of back to what you're asking about.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that in terms of us as a medical student, like, when we're thinking or coming up with ideas with trying to get involved in projects, is there, like, should we be looking for projects that are in line with the medical student project? Like someone mentioned they want to bring on the dead set and that's too special. Should we be trying to find projects?
Yeah, probably. The more competitive the specialty, the more that would matter. The less competitive the specialty, the more they probably just want to see that your brain knows how to do research and is thinking about it and is research minded. They want to see that you can work through that process.
So for some specialty, so long as you can some research regardless of where it's
If you can tell why it's relevant to you, yeah. I mean, I didn't just do this because I did this for no good reason, but I did it because I was interested in this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, that would be fine. I'm the weirdo, didn't ever think I was going to be delivering babies. Like I said, first residency's gen surge, and I was thinking ped surge. Not my undergrad, my med school research is all in perinatology. Really fascinating stuff, literally why babies are born when they're born. But it was really interesting to me. And as a 4-pound, 3-ounce baby myself, I kind of went, and actually my best friend in med school, my med school roommate was 3 something and was born at like 32 weeks. So, it's one of those things where I go, this is actually something I really am interested in. And interestingly enough, it was neurology research, which that's a whole nother story. I was talking with Caleb about. So for me, it actually made sense. And I could talk to people why I cared about this thing, even though it wasn't surgery. And truthfully, I got to do a bunch of surgeries, which was the other reason I loved it. Did a whole bunch of pelvic neurectomies on rats. Oh my gosh. Ooh. I could talk to you about the 3 supplies to the cervix. Do you know how many nerve supplies there are to the cervix? 3. You don't want to get me started. 2 of them are parasympathetic, 1 of them sympathetic. Which ones have to deal with babies? Read my papers. I'm telling you, I published a lot. It's why Caleb's like, yeah, you said Dr. Shekarapa. It's all the residents coming to him for research projects. And I don't know why. I said, don't know why. If they figured out how much I published, they might go, Carpenter's the one you want to talk to. Sure, Nicole.
Oh, you. No, oh. So I know that you've worked with a lot of residents and students. What kind of skills have you seen in residents or students that with the students who've done projects that have gotten them far as terms of getting the communications or presenting at conferences, like what qualities or skill sets have you seen in those students who go pretty far with their research?
So they're organized. first and foremost. They can. They're passionate about their topic. Because that's what gets it done. They are able to see things maybe from a different perspective and put together things that don't necessarily go together. My perinatology research really came to fruition while I was sitting in an asthma lecture. If that makes sense. I can tell you how it does. So they're able to come up with unique kind of inventive, because I will tell you the body does the same thing. It uses the same mechanisms, the same, whether it's biochem or whether it's actual physiologic, it uses the same mechanisms or it is subject to the same mechanisms, depending on the condition. And so being able to, they're able to see something over here and go, that applies to my problem because of these connections, and therefore they're able to make the change that they want it. As far as the publications, they stick with it. Like I say, they're organized and they stick with the process of doing it all the time. They're not afraid to have people go, what the heck are you even talking about? They're not afraid to have the writing ripped up. My PI would sit down and play lot. And I will tell you, a lot of stuff, it's okay. They're always looking to better their methodologies. Yeah. Sure. It was fun talking to you guys. Yeah, you can really do this, and I promise you, we've got all sorts of resources. If your docs that you're working with in the clinic don't have ideas, pick a patient that you're working with that day and go, huh, why did you do that? And start seeing if there are studies. And maybe go, maybe you'll say, oh, I did, what if you did this? It's as simple as that. I promise. Okay, guys. Speaking of reference, I didn't do it one day, must have started.
I made them come. Great. Well, thank you, Dr. Carpenter, for your time on a Friday afternoon, taking that away from your kids, but we appreciate you being here. Thank you. Awesome. A little bit back. All right. All right, we are almost done. Bear with me, just a couple of announcements.